who are now deadlocked this season. Pete went 9-7 last week. Brady went 5-11. So both tied 42-43 and 1 overall.
All right, the guys are all tied up. We have Brady, Quinn, and Pete Prisco here with us. Before we get into it, though, I don't know if you heard this offset, Pete, but Chris was saying that I'm the Jags fan girl and you're the Jags fan boy.
I'm not a fan.
B-O-I.
I don't ever care who wins or loses, ever. It doesn't matter to me. Life goes on. When you get to my age, you stop worrying about wins and losses, particularly when your college is so bad that it's embarrassing.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got the Jaguars going to the Super Bowl.
Well, they have a better chance than your team does that you picked.
The Cincinnati Bengals?
Yeah.
You mean the team that I've been trying to get you to pick since you keep claiming that they're going to win 2 in 10 years? Now it's like 2-7?
Who has a better chance this year, just out of curiosity?
It's early.
He doesn't.
I think Cincinnati does. They're red hot right now.
Well,
Two straight.
The Jags are at the top of the AFC South, and they have the Saints. Trevor Lawrence says he's optimistic that he can play. Pete, you are the mayor of Jags. That's what they call you around here, whether you claim it or not. But are you going with Jacksonville, or do you like the Saints?
Well, that's a whole other thing between being the Jags fan and the mayor of Jacksonville. I am the mayor of Jacksonville.
Oh, okay. So you admit to that.
I'm the mayor of Jacksonville. And will he play? I think he's going to play. You hear it's an MCL. How bad, we don't know. He practiced limited with a brace on Tuesday. We'll see where he is. I think he's going to play. He wants to play from what I hear, and obviously if it's cleared, he's going to play.
And look, I think it isn't the worst thing in the world if they have to get the football to Travis Etienne more. I mean, he's been good for them.
He's leading the league in carries, though.
That's fine. You've got a quarterback who might be immobile with his knee injury, so it's not the worst thing in the world to get it to one of the better players on your roster, and he's played well for them this year. The Saints have not looked right. I don't know what to put it on. I thought this roster, the defense has played great. Offensively, would be able to do more so far. This is going to be a tight one, although if you'll notice, the over-unders are so low this week in particular because so many unders have been hitting. That's been the story really of the season in the sports gambling world. I like the over best in this game, but I'm going to go ahead and take the 1.5 for the Jags on the road. We're not quite to that point in the season where I feel like there's a decisive advantage for the home team in the short week, so I'll go ahead and go with the hot Jacksonville Jaguars.
And I'll take the Jaguars as well. I think their defense is playing really well and stopping the run, and we know if they can't run the ball, the Saints, that puts more on Carr, and we saw what he did last week. He was bad last week.
By the way, my poor record last week, every single game I lost was there was what a quarterback hurt, or the supporting cast, the entire supporting cast of the 49ers hurt.
Well,
I'm just saying, it was unbelievable.
What are you talking about? We could do that every week.
Oh, I don't think this week.
Yes,
you guys go back through the picks
here. Brady going with the over, even though the Saints have hit 12 straight unders, and also going against the trend in this particular matchup. As the fanboy mayor of Jacksonville, you should know, the Saints have not lost to Jacksonville in 20 years.
Yeah.
They've won 5 straight games, covered each time. Look at that.
Pete don't care.
They're a better team. Jacksonville's a better team.
All right, let's move on to Sunday Night Football as we pick the primetime games first with Pete and Brady. This is the game of the week. It's the Dolphins at the Eagles. Philadelphia laying 2 at home. The public is all over those sexy Dolphins. The Sharps, though, are on the Eagles.
I think because the Eagles are going to dominate the line of scrimmage. And if there's one concern you have in this particular game and how these two teams match up, it's that defensive front, getting after Tua Tagovailoa, getting hits on him, and eliminating the ability for them to really push the football down the field. So that's more how I see this going. And then the other side, I think you're going to see Philly be able to dominate the line of scrimmage, run the football, control the game, create a couple big plays in the passing game. But I'll lay the 2 points here with the Eagles. And this is another one. That number looks high at 51.5. I still think it hits the over.
I'm with you, Brady. I think the Eagles are going to be a wounded team. When you're a wounded team and you're a good team and you come home and you get a really good team coming in your place, this is a chance to turn it around real quick, and I think they will. I think you mentioned it, that defensive line will get after Tua, and I think they're going to score. Jalen Hurts hasn't played well. I think he plays well. Miami has defensive issues. I'll take the Eagles and the over.
And we're hearing that Jalen Ramsey is going to practice, not going to play in that Eagles game, but hopefully in the coming weeks for Miami. Miami and the Eagles, they're 5-1, so are the Niners. Pete, you've said when the Niners are fully healthy, they're arguably the best team in the league. Obviously, they're dealing with a slew of injuries right now. Interesting to see how Brock Purdy's going to rebound after that loss, but they're going up against the Vikings, and we always talk about Kirk and the narrative on prime time.
Well, Pete talks about it.
Everybody talks about it.
And it's a thing. So are you rolling with the Niners?
You talk about it. Everybody talks about it.
I don't talk about it. You talk about it.
Well, I mean, it's a thing. I mean, the guy doesn't play well in prime time.
It is a stark contrast to when he plays at 1 o'clock Eastern or 4 o'clock Eastern, then what it looks like in other prime times. So, yeah.
I like the 49ers here. I think they regroup. They're too good a team. And if you're Brock Purdy and you didn't play well against the best defense in the league last week, well, now you get a defense that's not very good to kind of get things right. I think he will get things right. I'll take the 49ers.
I'm with you on this one. Obviously, everyone was decimated last week for San Francisco. And even if that's the case going into this where you might not have Deebo Samuel healthy or playing, or Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams, all the injuries they sustained, Kyle Shanahan will put together a plan to utilize who he has out around them. And on top of that, I still feel like the Vikings, it was a good win versus the Bears, good divisional win for them. The reality is, though, it was one of the games I picked. Fields gets hurt. It kind of took away any of the teeth of that Bears offense because they weren't playing well for the past couple of weeks. So this is a different challenge for the Vikings take on the 49ers defense. They're potentially could struggle up front on the offensive line. And on top of that, I'll be curious to see if Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson and KJ Osborne can step up and make enough big plays versus this defense. So I'm going to lay the 7 points with the 49ers on the road.
Yeah, they get 7 right off the gate. Just yell out, Kirk, it's prime time. It's prime time. It's 7-0 already.
You guys are going to agree on everything here today.
It's scary.
Yeah.
And by the way,
hold on. I do a little extra work, so I do have the under here in this one.
By the way, I hate to say this, I'm very chalky this week. I don't like it. I do not like it.
3 agreements in the first 3 games, all primetime games, Thursday, Sunday, Monday. Again, no London game this week. 6 teams on byes. HQ presented by Penske. Here are the early games Sunday on CBS. Bills, Patriots.
What was that?
Browns, Colts, Giants, and Washington. We were talking about the way people say things differently, like restaurant, Sunday, Monday. Washington is another. A lot of people will say Washington.
Rick Spielman
who says that?
Rick Spielman says Washington. Rick Spielman says Washington.
Washington. Let's start, though, with Buffalo and New England. And the Patriots haven't been this big of a dog at home since pre-Tom Brady era. They're getting 8.5.
And I'm laying the 8.5 with the Buffalo Bills right now. Josh Allen's playing phenomenal. This Bills offense is playing much more physical, a little more balanced too, running the football. And I don't think the Patriots can keep pace offensively, and I don't know that their defense can hold back the Bills from scoring enough to cover this number. So given that, Pete, I'm laying the 8.5.
By the way, you should change that. Say the Patriots haven't been this big a dog in their history because they're dogs. This is a terrible football team because of Bill Belichick and the way he's run it. He's still a great coach.
This is the worst Patriots team ever?
No.
That's what you just said.
It's one of them. It's one of the. It's the worst in his tenure. I can tell you that.
Quarterback scales here, Pete. Josh Allen, Mac Jones.
Thump. I mean, come on. It's awful.
What does it look like
Josh
again?
Allen didn't exactly play. Josh Allen didn't play great last week.
They got to win, though.
They got to win.
That's all that
They didn't
matters.
score a lot of points, though. You said he's playing.
Who doesn't score a lot of points? The New England Patriots.
Yeah. Well.
What's the quarterback skills again?
Thump. It's terrible. I mean, Mac Jones is bad.
He doesn't have anyone to throw to, though.
Here we go. Quarterback defender.
I'm just saying that this offense doesn't have any bite to it right now. I mean, they're relying on Kendrick Bourne trying to be a big play receiver for him.
You can't. Please do not defend him as a quarterback.
Please.
You're not. Are you going to defend him?
I just did.
Oh, it's terrible.
Wow.
Oh,
he's in a tough spot.
You're the only person in the world, other than his family, who's defending him right now.
Last 3 games, Mac Jones has 7 turnovers, 0 touchdowns. And what is this? Most passing touchdowns since. Who made this? Oh, come on. What, did a Patriots fan make?
It's the most without a Pro Bowl teammate. Jack, our producer, is actually supporting my point. He's throwing to guys who aren't making Pro Bowls. And so, again, they're devoid of talent around them.
I'm not arguing that.
Okay, and you said this.
And he's bad.
Bill Belichick has struggled to find those, or really invest into the playmakers on that side.
And he's bad. And I'll take Buffalo.
Is your hand okay? I feel you were like slapping on the table talking about Mac Jones. Let's talk about, how did you say it? Washington?
Washington, yeah.
Washington and the Giants. I'm kind of concerned on who's going to get sacked the most in this game. These teams rank top 2 in the most sacks allowed this season. Washington with 34 and the Giants with 33. Pete, where are you going with this one?
I'm going to take the Commanders. I know I'm bucking a trend here because they're playing consecutive road games.
Back-to-back road games. Only when Pete wants to use
the
it.
Giants put so much into trying to beat the Bills the other night. Played a great defensive game. I think their offensive line is going to be overmatched in a big way here. I think Washington's defensive line has so much talent. They hadn't always played up to it. They're starting to. You started to see it last week. I think they get after the quarterback.
Both these offensive lines have struggled.
Spielman says Washington?
Yeah. Where'd that come from?
I'm just thinking about it. Spielman, he's a special guy. Really is.
Anyway, both these offensive lines could struggle in this one. I mean, the Giants' defense played well last week. It really did. And whether it's Daniel Jones or Tyrod Taylor, if he ends up taking over again, he's going to be under duress. And I believe in Sam Howell enough to be able to cover this number on the road. So I'll lay the 2 points here with Washingtons. That's what we're calling them. And I also think this is another overreaction to how bad unders have been. I think this game hits the over sitting there at 39.5.
We're going to talk about totals. How about a total under 40 in this next game as well? Browns at Colts. Browns probably the best defense in football, and Anthony Richardson now officially done for the year.
Yeah, and I'll let you go because this is going to be...
I mean, Gardner Minshew, every year it happens. He plays 1 or 2 games, and everybody goes, oh, he should be starting somewhere in the league. And then reality sets in, and we saw reality last week against the Jaguars. He was awful. I'm telling you, if they actually held on to a couple of those passes, he would have had 7 interceptions. He was so bad. And this defense is going to get all over him. It's a bad matchup. I'll take the Browns.
I'm not even going to look at you and speak because I can't without smiling.
He's terrible.
This isn't even as bad. He really feels even worse about this. Here's the reality, okay? When you throw the football 55 times like that, you put Gardner Minshew in a tough spot. Zach Moss has run the football well. You have Jonathan Taylor back. And he's going to talk about the interceptions. Oh, they were down at half. It's halftime. Don't panic. Don't put your quarterback in that spot. Run the football with your 2 best players on your offense, and maybe you'll hang around a little bit in that game. So, look, I'm with Pete on this one, and it's in part because I think the Browns, whether it's P.J. Walker or if Deshaun Watson comes back, we have no idea when that's going to happen. This defense for Cleveland's special, and they'll be able to stop the rushing attack. They'll be able to stop Minshew or whoever. So I'll lay the 1.5 points here with the Browns, but just can we not throw the football 55 times?
Okay.
Just use your running backs.
Okay, but Jacksonville had about 250 yards of total offense, I think. Yeah. And they
ran the ball,
and they scored 37
times.
Points because of Gardner Minshew.
They ran the ball 15
He turned the ball
times.
over in their point-blank range.
What are you missing about this game plan? You don't put it in his hand to throw as much. You run the football.
They fell behind. Then he got 300 yards.
It doesn't, at halftime, you're down. It doesn't matter.
It was no. He was bad. Quit defending.
I'm not saying he wasn't bad. I'm saying don't throw the football 55 times.
Well, you're behind by 20 points. You're going to
okay. You're at halftime when you're behind double digits. It's okay. You can still run the football.
Yeah. Sound the alarm, Pete. You didn't sound it this time. The QB defender.
The defender showed up.
With Danny, we had a bet in honor of Gardner Minshew, and I can't remember what it was, that you were going to wear jorts if you lost the bet. That was last week. What happened?
So now Danny has to wear them.
Okay, so you won that bet.
Yeah, I won.
To wear the jorts.
All right. Next up, we have the Lions and the Ravens. Ravens are 3-point favorites here. Lions, they're 5-1, tied for the best record. And the last time that happened was Week 11 in '93, and the Ravens weren't even a franchise. But you like the Lions, Pete. You're high on them. You have been since the preseason. Are you rolling with them? Or are you?
No, I wasn't as high on the Lions as everybody else.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I'm not.
Yeah,
how you feel about that?
I had that Packers winning the division. I could revise that right now if I wanted to.
Are you going to?
Yes, I will revise it. I'm impressed with this team. I really am. I think defensively they're really good. Offensively, Jared Goff's playing at a high level and doesn't get the due he deserves ever as a quarterback for some reason. I have no idea why. But I like the Ravens in this spot. And back-to-back roadies.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and Baltimore, I think there's little glimpses of that offense at times starting to show up, and I think it shows up here. I think they play
well. The glimpses need to hold on to the football if there's glimpses of it, because that's the issue, I think, for Baltimore. They've had drops this year when the O-line's been banged up. The O-line's been inconsistent at times. Look, I like where the Lions are at. I think they're going to be the more physical team on both sides of the ball. That's the brand of football that Dan Campbell has been playing. And you touched on it. Jared Goff's played outstanding, and I feel more comfortable with knowing what that team is, what the identity of the Lions is. So I'll take the 3 points with the Lions here on the road. It should be a great game. It should be a close game.
I'm looking forward to these games this week.
Another one, an over at 42.5. I like the over here. I think there's a little bit more scoring. Both these teams could get loose.
Did you pick every over-under in this?
Almost, yeah. No, I almost picked an over for every single one. Besides the Bills and Patriots.
You really like the card this week. You pick doubles on every game.
I do. I like to give the folks some little extra action, Pete.
But it doesn't go against his win-loss
so it's just like, it's like poof, vanishes after he's done.
Jack can keep track of it. We could
I'll take
Jack
credit.
doesn't have-
I'm going to start counting my
Our producer, Jack, has nothing to do after this. We can ask him to tabulate all the over-unders.
Move on to another 1 o'clock game, and this is the lowest total of the week in a week of low totals. 37.5 is the total for the Raiders at the Bears. Vegas favored by 3. Bears will have that guy up on the screen right now. Likely not Fields, who is doubtful for this game. Tyson Bagent probably going to start.
Yeah, played a Shepherd, put up a bunch of numbers down there. Had a great preseason. That's why he's in the spot. That being said, first start at home versus this Raiders team that's Max Crosby's playing out of his mind right now. I'm going to go with the Raiders. And we don't think it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. It's most likely going to be Brian Hoyer, Aiden O'Connell, whoever it would end up being. I still feel more confident with where this Raiders team is at right now and how this roster is built. Them being able to go in there, lay the 3 points, and get a win and cover that number. So another one again, 37.5. He said it's the lowest over-under. I'll take the over in this one, despite the fact that you're going to be having backups start at quarterback for both teams probably.
I'm going to take the Raiders as well. I think they're starting to play a little bit better on both lines, which is important. You mentioned that Max Crosby is just killing people out there, and I just can't see the rookie going in there and winning this game. I'm going to take the Raiders as well.
All right, Falcons and the Bucks, another low total, 38.5. Bucks are slightly favored at 2.5. We know you like their quarterback, Baker Mayfield, fire in the belly, as Pete always says. And you like
the fire
Bucks.
last week, Pete.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was bad. But you both like the Bucks in this spot, and you like the over as well, Brady.
I do. Again, another over, sit at 38.5. I mean, it's like, this is an overreaction. I mean, we've really seen unders, and we've seen, I guess you'd say, poor offensive football. And maybe this is a byproduct of, lack of hitting, lack of offseason. And then on top of it, no one plays in the preseason anymore. So these offenses are getting off to a slow start. I think you're seeing that a little bit.
Is it the wussification of America? Is that what's
Those would not be my words, but those are apparently your words.
You went there, huh?
Well, I mean, you say it all the time.
What,
Pete,
the participation trophy
Yeah.
era?
Yeah.
Again,
Throw that thing to the side.
More because of the lack of preparing themselves for week one, at least in my opinion. That being said, I like the Bucs to bounce back here. Tough one last week versus Detroit. I think they get back on track. Pete's guy, Baker Mayfield, gets back on track in this one versus that Falcons defense. So the over of 38.5, but also laying the points with Tampa Bay.
2 trophies you never want to have, a participation trophy and a sportsmanship trophy. Throw those things away. You don't want either one of those. I'm going to take Baker Mayfield to bounce back. He was bad last week. The offense was bad. They struggled in a big way. That was a game they could have won if they scored any points. Their defense actually played pretty well in that game.
Were you on the right side of that? Was that what you're saying?
I was on the wrong side of it.
Well, usually you say it a loss like that. You're on the right side, even though, okay.
You came in here making excuses for your crappy
I didn't make any excuses. Well, okay, I had a bunch of quarterbacks get hurt. You tell me what impacts him more.
Is that making excuses for his record?
A little bit, yeah.
All right, I'll take the Bucs as well.
All right, Pete, Brady, they're sticking around. We have more Week 7 picks coming up. But also for more winning picks, make sure you check out our crew, the Early Edge podcast, Jonathan Coachman and Company, a daily sportsline betting podcast. You can also check them out on the Early Edge YouTube channel. Download and follow, listen, all the things wherever you get your pods, or you can scan that QR code.
HQ presented by Penske. Let's look at the late afternoon slate on Sunday with a couple of games on CBS. Chargers, Chiefs, and the Broncos and the Packers. That was a great game back in the day, wasn't it? Not anymore. Maybe
It was a
this week.
Super Bowl once.
Yeah, it was a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think they matched up a few years ago. Rodgers and Peyton Manning, both teams were 6-0 going into that game. This is not that game. Packers favored by 1.5. Let's start with the Chargers and the Chiefs. The Chiefs, we always start with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. This defense, though, has been pretty good. They're the only team in the league that hasn't given up more than 21 points in a game.
I think that's one of the reasons, too, why I like Kansas City in this spot, especially based on what we saw this past week, the Chargers taking on the Dallas Cowboys. They struggled. They struggled to put up points, even though Eckler was back. And I'm not really sure what you put your finger on. They do have a new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. Maybe there's a feeling out process there with what's happening. And there were some missed opportunities by Justin Herbert, in particular down the field, that potentially could have been some points for him. So I think it's going to be tough for them going into Arrowhead, taking on this Chiefs team with that defense, but obviously Patrick Mahomes. So I'll lay the 5.5 points. I also like the over. Once again, that's going to be a common theme here.
You have every over this week? Well, I have almost every favorite this week, and I'm going to take the Chiefs as well. The game will start, and it'll be 4th and 1, and you should kick a field goal. And somehow, some way, Brandon Staley won't kick the field goal, and it'll cost his team a bunch of points and momentum in the game. He has to learn how to. Momentum matters in an NFL game.
It
tie
does?
the game.
I thought that was like college football.
Tie the game once in a while. He could have tied it the other night. They play at a disadvantage. They're going to be at a disadvantage here. You mentioned that defense. They're really good. I love the Chiefs in this spot. Plus, they get extra rest. Remember, they played on a Thursday, so they get extra rest.
Yep.
Let's get back to that exciting matchup with the Packers and the Broncos.
Why are you shaking your head?
Because you mentioned the extra rest at your older age. You didn't used to say that. Now you need the extra rest. So
I barely even sleep,
really
I don't know what you're talking about.
You guys are in agreement on this one. Denver has not covered this season, but you like the Packers. And Brady, actually, the under.
Yeah,
right?
the under for this one.
A little change of pace.
I'm just kind of curious to see, and it's surprising considering how bad the Broncos defense has been that you take an under in this one. But it's not like the Packers offense has been lighting the world on fire either. So I think this might be a little lower scoring game, kind of defensive battle between these two teams. And I'll go ahead and lay the 1.5 points here with the Packers. Extra rest, obviously, coming off the bye. I think they'll be able to score enough points to cover this number on the road.
Jared Stidham. If Russell Wilson continues to play bad football,
he hasn't played bad.
He was awful last week.
God, he's got the same stat line as Patrick Mahomes.
He was awful last week. Would you agree with that?
He had a bad game last week.
He was awful last week.
He's not the problem in Denver.
No, he's not the problem. He's not the answer, but he's not the problem either. And I think when you look at this team, they have so many issues. You mentioned the defense. The defense actually played well against Kansas City, but they're not a good defense.
They're awful. And that's the problem is no one ever talks about how bad the Denver Broncos defense is.
Terrible.
And why do we never hear Vance Joseph's name brought up?
Well,
what?
You just brought it up.
There you go. You know the last time he coached a top 10 defense? Want to know when it was?
Yeah.
2016, back when he was the head coach for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
That's how long it's been. And somehow that's been his calling card.
No,
where's the evidence of this?
Nobody's defending their defense.
They're like the worst in the league right now.
They played pretty well the last time out. Again, they weren't the problem against the Chiefs. He was. Russell Wilson was. And so I think I'm with you on the Packers. I think they're going to move the football on that defense to win the game and cover.
Still buying Jordan Love.
He's got to pick it up.
I mean, you were the one just, taught him the next Joe Montana.
No, I don't call anybody the next Joe Montana or Dan Marino.
Move on to another 4 o'clock game. This is not a CBS game. Steelers at Rams. LA laying 3 at home. Steelers coming off the bye. They've won 6 straight off the bye.
Yeah, and actually, I like the under the best in this game. I know we've said a lot of overs, but at 43.5, I think the defense is going to show up here for the Steelers, rested, ready to go. Not sure what to make of the offense for Pittsburgh. They've struggled, obviously. And look, the Rams have been hanging around, and they've been better, obviously, with Kupp and Nakua back there for Stafford to throw to. I'll go ahead and take the 3 points, though, in the Steelers here on the road. I think we constantly have underestimated this Steelers team. And at some point, the offense has to show more production. You'd think unless they're going to make a change, which it doesn't seem like Mike Tomlin wants to do. But that being said, I'll take the 3 points of the Steelers here on the road.
I'm going to take the Rams. I love the way Sean McVay has that team playing. I mean, you look at them, they're so undermanned at so many spots, and they're at 500, and they've been in the other games where they lost those games. So I think they're going to win this game. I think they cover the number. I'm so worried about the Steelers' offense. It really is
Like Kenny Pickett checked more plays. Apparently that's how he gets some bigger plays downfield.
It's hard to watch, and I feel sorry almost for Kenny Pickett because he's in a bad situation.
Are you defending the quarterback?
No. He's not playing great either. And you're the one who always says Matt Canada's the terrible coach.
I didn't say a terrible coach. I said he's not a good play caller. There's a difference between the two. Some guys have a knack for it, some don't. His job is to call
plays. If he's a terrible play caller, he's a terrible coach.
But it's 2 different skill sets, and that's what I'm trying to explain to you. Is a guy can be good with quarterback fundamentals and helping to prepare and all that. When you get into the game, you got to be able to call plays. You have to be able to anticipate things. Some guys are good at it, some aren't that have that title.
I'll take the Rams.
All right, another 4 o'clock slate game. We have the Cardinals at the Seahawks. Seahawks favored at 7.5. The first time being more than 7-point favorite since the Russ Wilson trade. What do you like here, Brady?
Yeah, we saw last week they really struggled versus the Rams, and I think we're starting to kind of see maybe the Arizona team that people had anticipated coming into the season. It's been great so far, but this is another opportunity, divisional game. They got to go on the road. That's going to be tough, and I think the Seahawks defense is starting to come on here. So I'm going to lay the 7.5 points. I also think it's a game that hits the over, though. I think there'll be a fair amount of scoring back and forth. But look, Kyler Murray may be coming back at some point this season. They might need him if they want to be competitive.
Well, they're not competitive. They were competitive early in the season. Josh Dobbs has kind of morphed into being Josh Dobbs again. And when that happens, you're not going to score points. Seattle left a bunch of points on the field last week at Cincinnati. Could have won that game. They were in the red zone a bunch, didn't score. I think they score here. I'll take Seattle as well.
Cards have lost 3 straight by 14 plus, to Brady's point, kind of going back to the team we thought they would be going into the season. Best bets, and Pete, you're going to go to the biggest game of the week for yours.
Yeah, Dolphins Dolphin fans, leave me alone. Please stay away from me. They're nasty. They're vile. Sometimes they come after me in all ways, shapes, or forms. Oh, they're bad. Wow. And I'm taking the Eagles. This is the Buffalo game all over again for Miami. Everybody, oh, look, Miami scored all these points. They scored them against the Giants and against the Panthers. Now you go play a good team, wounded team coming off a loss. I'll take the Eagles. Best bet.
Would be an interesting one. I'm with the Tampa Bay Bucks, laying the 2.5, taking on the Falcons, a divisional opponent. Bounce back week, I think, for Baker Mayfield, and as well as that defense. So I think it's going to be hard for the Falcons to run the football. You put that game on Desmond Ritter's shoulders. He struggled at times to be able to carry that team. So I'll land the 2.5.
By the way, we're both 2-4 with our best bets. Take it for what it's worth.
Yeah. And what, you had 2 disagreements this week on against the spread? I mean, you guys had basically agreed on everything.
So yeah, and he liked all the favorites, and I actually like the dogs in that particular case. So I'm not as chalky as you are.
I'm chalky this week, and I don't like it. I never like to be chalky, but when I evaluate these games, I'm chalky.
Okay.
You like what you like. Pete Prisco and
all
Brady
tied up.
Quinn.
All tied up.
Tied up going into this week.
You're on a losing streak.
We went back and looked this season on all the agreements. When you guys do agree on a game, you're about 500, which is right about where you guys are overall this season, agreeing on the Chiefs, Packers, and Seahawks.